With the events of 1036, Oda has made me realize that honestly the Straw Hats do not have many worthy opponents going into the future. Their crew right now is insanely strong, but it's more so their potential that is just scary to me and should be scary to everyone else. So in today's video, I want to talk about that. But before I get into the video, if you could please hit that like button. My fault for sounding like Doc Rivers, I just woke up. But before I get into the video, if you could please hit the like button, subscribe, turn on post notifications, go in that description and hit that Discord link. It would be greatly appreciated. We're at around 127, I think, so let's get that to 130. You know what I'm saying? It would only take a few seconds and makes a massive difference. Honestly, there aren't a lot of crews in the world right now that can really challenge the Straw Hats right now. Obviously, there are people that can take them the distance, you know, Yonko crews and things like that, but post Wano, it's really not going to be any competition except for the, you know, in the series fights. Now, I think this is pretty apparent because Oda basically is, in my thoughts, going to have Luffy's first one-on-one versus Yonko maybe be Big Mom, but it doesn't look like she'll have her crew with her or anything. And the next two fights that I can really see happening in the story, or major fights that'll actually challenge them, is Blackbeard, maybe a Davy back fight with Shanks or something like that, but I don't really know. And then obviously the final war where they're facing all the, you know, gets admirals and the, you know, the strongest marines to ever live and things like that. With Luffy, we all know that he is going to get stronger and overcome the enemy, but the sheer fact that he can grow so much in fights, and this is a man who is already clashing equally with Kaido, and some may say, oh, one is more damaged than the other. Kaido has been fighting all these people. Then people will say, okay, well, Luffy has taken all this damage. He's gotten knocked out like 3 times. And I don't think there's a solid way to actually calculate it, but he's clashing equally. He is literally trading blows with the world's strongest creature. And for him to even get stronger here, his potential is just crazy. There is really no match for anybody in terms of potential right now, except for, in my opinion, say Blackbeard or something like that. Everybody else in the verse seems to have got at their pinnacle of strength. Kaido, Big Mom, Shanks, Mihawk. The only person that I can see actually getting stronger throughout time, or at least throughout these, you know, last couple months since the time skip, is actually Blackbeard. Anybody on that level, at least, you know, people like Smoker, Kobe, Bellamy, you know, people like that are probably getting stronger. But this man is constantly upping his strength and doing things to make him stronger. In this arc alone, it's just been crazy with the power-ups and everything. Everybody getting so strong. And I want to use that to segue on to Zoro because he's a Conqueror's Coder now, and by Kaido's words, that makes him, you know, one of the strongest. So I think this is the arc where people will start to acknowledge that they are kind of more partners than anything. Even though I have always thought that, I think this is the arc where people will actually acknowledge that, okay, he's starting to fit into this Rayleigh-esque, Ben Beckman-esque role, where they aren't looked at as necessarily commanders, but they are first mates, they are red-handed mans, and more importantly, they are the vice captain. Someone who has comparable authority to the captain, and in most cases comparable strength. If you go back to the beginning of the story, Luffy said that it is ideal to have someone as strong as the world's strongest swordsman on his crew. And Mihawk even hyping his position up, saying that one of the only things that are harder than it is the actual Pirate King position. They are the same coin but different sides, as that one gets his title and fame off of strength alone and mostly sailing by himself, whereas the other person's goal gets his title from being famous. Obviously, strength is a big part of it, but it's mostly territory and fame and stuff like that. This definitely does feel like Zoro's first big, you know, like kind of scratch in the book. Like he has gotten this through like working by himself, and it actually feels like a big accomplishment in his dream. That has been one of the fans' biggest gripes with the post time skip, specifically with Zoro's character, but they feel like he didn't have enough achievements to, you know, actually look back on and say, okay, he'll hold up, he is the strongest swordsman now. What did he do to get here? His next fight, presumably being Shiryu, who has this invisibility thing, basically helps Zoro work on the thing that people say he's been lacking in. I think I disagree with all of that kind of the gripes of all of the downplays that people have on all 3 of the monster trio. I think Sanji deals more damage than people give him credit for. I think Zoro is faster and has better reaction than people give him credit for. Well, people don't really downplay Luffy as much, but there are a small group of people that say, you know, his stamina thing is a big issue, but he's clashing kind of in base with Kaido, so I don't think that's a problem anymore. He can clearly fight top tiers without having to go, you know, all out and use his lifespan and all that. So I think it is pretty evident that all of those claims are being debunked as we speak, but not everybody actually will, unfortunately, agree or, you know, read it the same as everybody else. But back to Shiryu, this fight will actually be used as a catalyst to actually upgrade it, you know, his observation haki and everything. And then him obviously fighting an admiral, and then his in-game fight being Mihawk, which many would agree is a Yonko level opponent, and he is approaching that very fast. If you think about it, he pretty easily beat King after the power up, so that means he is obviously approaching this level. When I say easily, it wasn't, you know, a walk in the park. Obviously he was still able to hang in there and clash with him for a few seconds before ultimately getting defeated. Just them two, the Strawhats, are already overpowered. But then you take into account Sanji, who many will believe his end of series fight is an admiral as well, so that's pretty self-explanatory. And then you have people like Frankie and Brook that are just so reliable, and honestly Frankie himself beat someone who was pretty confident in actually stepping up to the commander spot, so I am going to assume he is approaching that level as well. Obviously not on the level like first commanders, but he's definitely on the lower end. So who could possibly be a challenge for such a strong crew? And I think the biggest one obviously is Blackbeard, and I made multiple Blackbeard videos, so please go check those out. But I want to talk more on a possible altercation between the Straw Hats and the Red Hair Pirates, because I think this will be a very good way to actually test their skill. If you go back to, I believe, the first chapter, Luffy had already been acquainted and very used to Shanks' crew, so when he set out, he literally said he wanted a crew just like Shanks's, and he said 9 or 10 people should do. So I'm going to assume that Oda wrote the story for Shanks's and Luffy's crew to kind of mirror each other. Since Zoro grows so fast, even in the Daz Bones fight, Daz mentioned how just in one fight he grew so much, and the Conqueror's Haki thing in chapter 1035, we can assume that in the next coming arcs he's going to rapidly grow, and he's going to be clear of, you know, the first commanders or whatever. He's going to have a challenge. You have someone like Vin Beckman, who is stated to be comparable to Shanks and is the vice captain. I think this would be a great way to kind of gauge his skill and see how much more he needs to go. And for Luffy as well, if they clash or just a friendly duel kind of thing, we can see where he is in relation to these top tiers. We know he is clashing with Kaido pretty equally, but we just don't know exactly full health one-on-one where he is at in comparison. And as for Luffy himself, actually, I do think he is on the level of these, you know, Yonko, because his opponents from here on out, unlike say, you know, Sanji, Zoro, are going to be all basically Yonko. There's probably going to be some admiral in there, but for him to actually be able to beat these people, he has to be on the level of them, or at least just a tad bit below, because we know Luffy does grow to actually beat these people all in one bout. He doesn't, like, you know, fight someone and then, you know, re-challenge them in another arc, or at least, you know, a full fight, because he has re-challenged people like, say, Crocodile, and he even said he needs to, you know, beat all the Yonko and the admirals, so it's kind of inevitable that he's going to beat them all one-on-one now. But let me know, is there any other crew besides maybe Shanks or Blackbeard that could actually pose a real threat to the Straw Hats? Definitely let me know in the comments, and if you did like the video, please hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. Also, go in that description and hit that Discord link and just come and chill. And until next time, peace.